It's universities and hundreds of charities as its crackdown continues following the failed coup there last week. The decree issued by President Erdogan also orders the closure of 19 trade unions and 35 medical institutions. The number of people who've now been detained, arrested or suspended from their jobs since the attempted overthrow stands at more than 50,000, and that's amid a state of emergency declared in the country.
Fernando Valleys.
Flames continue to rage out of control and almost doubled the acres burned overnight. The smoke from the fire is casting a haze over much of Southern California. KCAL9's Joy Benedict is live with the very latest updates. Joy?
Yeah, Louise is talking about the heat coming up today, and I can really feel it already. Although the ash falling down may not be as heavy anymore, with the sun coming up, the heat is really starting to make it very difficult for folks who are outside, especially those firefighters. We're out here on Little Tahunga Canyon Road. You can see we got our good friends with the CHP here. They are stopping folks as they are coming up, making sure that everybody who travels this road is actually living here and asking for identification, because this is technically under the evacuation area, so obviously they don't want folks who don't need to be up here up on
Chinese
this.
Scientists are about to become the first in the world to inject people with genetically modified cells using a special gene editing process. Starting next month, the team of scientists plans on testing the cells they edit in patients with incurable lung cancer who haven't responded to other treatments. It's called CRISPR, and it works like a text editor of sorts. The technique manipulates DNA by cutting certain sections and then adding new sequences or removing them altogether. In this case, scientists are planning on using CRISPR to turn off a gene that's been shown to slow immune response. The hope is this will let the immune system attack the cancer cells. There have been a lot of ethical and safety concerns surrounding this type of gene editing. In 2015, a group of scientists published a letter in Nature warning against editing the kinds of genetic code that gets passed on. But this experiment isn't going to be editing any hereditary genes. Still, it is one step closer to what a lot of people see as the bright side of genetic modification: potential cures for genetic diseases and cancer. And it's not much of a surprise China wanted to get a jump on human CRISPR experimentation. It's the first in this area pretty regularly. It had the first CRISPR-edited human embryos and the first CRISPR-edited monkeys. A similar experiment was approved recently in the US.
Heroin use in the United States is currently at a 20-year high, according to the UN's annual World Drug Report. The report was released on June 23rd and found 1 million heroin users in the U.S. in 2013, almost 3 times as many users compared to 2003. The increase in heroin use can be linked to recent legislation that makes abusing prescription drug difficult, according to Chief Researcher Angela Mee. The texture of painkillers such as oxycodone, which has similar effects to heroin, has been reformulated to be harder to crush up and inject into the bloodstream. Heroin's increased accessibility means lower prices, making it an even more enticing option.
Heroin epidemic, it's not going anywhere, and some believe it will actually get worse before it gets better. And in fact, it would already have been a lot deadlier had it not been for naloxone. As you know, naloxone is the drug that can reverse an overdose. And listen to this. In York County law enforcement alone, they have saved more than 100 people with naloxone so far this year. We have seen how heroin is affecting families, how it's changing how courts are run, how doctors do their jobs, and a whole lot of other aspects of life. Also taxpayers with no connection to this drug. Now, the man I talked to in the report that you just saw is a great example of this struggle. He is hooked on heroin, he went to detox, he got clean, but then 4 days later, the temptation was just too strong and he relapsed. At this point, he's not ready to try again. He called heroin his disease, as so many others have. And so we all have a stake in finding a cure for this. The big question is how. So Janelle and Kim, we will continue to report on this problem until someone figures that out.
We're protecting his identity, but this man is 23, a business student at the University of Akron, who knows he's lucky to be alive.
It almost killed me. It did kill me, but I was brought back. They said I had flatlined.
Police told him what he and 2 women OD'd on was heroin mixed with carfentanil, a drug that likely came from China and is 10,000 times more potent than morphine. So powerful, it's used to sedate animals as large as bears, elephants, and zebras.
And as soon as I sniffed it, I knew it was. I knew something was up because it got me feeling super, intense.
Lieutenant Rick Edwards told me just yesterday 16 people overdosed in Akron and 2 died. In the past 17 days, 173 overdoses reported, with 16 dead. Police suspect many of the cases will be tied to carfentanil.
It's very important to us at this point with all hands on deck because we're losing so many people and so many people are overdosing.
This admitted addict says he only lived after receiving 3 or 4 doses of Narcan, a heroin reversing drug.
It gets real serious whenever, your mom comes there and crying, like hysterical, thinking that her son, could be dead.
Police have made a couple of possession arrests, but they're still hunting for the main supplier. Meantime, the college student now in treatment at Oriana House is urging people to not make the same mistake he did.
We're on the road, driving into the worst Ebola epidemic in history. It's quite extraordinary. There's hardly any cars on the road. All the shops are closed, just 1 or 2 people walking on the street. When I've been here before at this time, it would be absolutely jam-packed. You could barely move. Freetown is a ghost town. The government shut down the entire country for a day. For reflection, they say. Hammering 3 countries, the outbreak is worst here in Sierra Leone, and the World Health Organization says Ebola is now spreading faster than they can contain it. The fear is spreading with it. For months, the public's response has been dominated by denial and rumors, while Ebola silently kills.